Hi, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I am Coach Sherri. And listen, I am learning something new every single day. Wow, I was setting up this live and I was just, playing around with some colors, some um images for the thumbnail and just images that I'm going to use to provide you with information for this particular series. And then here comes Slasher Chick, and I was like, wait, what? And she was just saying, that she was just scrolling through my previous Real Talk with, and thought that I should bring that back, Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And that's what I'm doing. I got this idea really from you, Slasher Chick, the other day. It may have been yesterday, I don't know, days are just rolling. And you were saying that you wanted to set your lives up in a more, just I think you were saying something about you wanted to set your lives up so that they could be, I think, a podcast or part of your collection. And even though we are doing this challenge, we are doing a 90-day going live every day challenge. I am on day 56, y'all. I've gone live every single day for the past 56 days. And so I was thinking, my content, your content, many content creators, the information they share is evergreen. So it doesn't matter what type of challenge you may be on, what your topic is or whatever. You really need to be more intentional and purposeful when you are setting it up. And so I decided today to really kind of structure this like I want to have my podcast, which is a tab on YouTube, to have my podcast kind of have it set up. And so my podcast is Real Talk with Coach Sherri, and it's RTW. So if you see RTW Coach Sherri, RTW stands for Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And so that's why I was kind of structuring this like that. And thank you, Slasher Chick. Wow. And so the interesting thing is, I was putting this together, but she was able to come into the chat. And I know that we can schedule them. I didn't schedule my live though. I just set it up and just came into the studio. But that's really interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. So you must have seen so many different thumbnails popping up because I couldn't determine which thumbnail I wanted to use, and I appreciate the compliment. Thank you so much. Yes, we are learning and growing, and we will celebrate the win of clarity, and we'll have a level of expertise when this is over because we have been at it for sure. So, this topic tonight is going to be about things to consider when relocating. And I'm looking at this, this is a holiday weekend, and oftentimes people go to different cities, states, even countries, and they fall in love and they determine, you know what, I think I want to make this home. And I mean that in every sense of the word. I literally know someone who went on vacation to South Africa, like maybe 2 years ago, it's been about now. And he and his wife fell in love with South Africa. They started looking at real estate within those 2 weeks that they were there. They found a beautiful home and were just so shocked at how affordable it was there. They put in their offer for the home. They came back to the United States to get their financials together, and they got the house. And so his goal was to work for maybe 3 to 5 more years, and he's my age, and so and so at that time, if I'm 50, he was 52, 51, 52 years old at that time. And so the goal was to work another 3 to 5 years and then moved to South Africa. He already had another stream of income in terms of a business, and he knew he would be able to do his business in South Africa. His wife works in IT, and she can work remotely and support businesses with the work she does. So that would be no problem. His mother was also planning to move with them, and she's retired, so that was no problem. And, he had young adult children here. One of his young adults was going to rent their home, their permanent residence that's here in the United States. And they were, on their way to purchase the house in South Africa. And that's having been in South Africa just for 2 weeks and having fallen in love with that country. So fast forward, they got the deal went through in terms of they got the house, and they went back for like a month and got some contractors. Just so happens one of his next door neighbors is a contractor, and I'm trying to tell you, his house looks like a five-star hotel. It is absolutely gorgeous, and what he paid for it it would definitely be in the mid seven figures in the United States, and they did not pay anywhere near that amount. And so they went back for a month and they fell in love with it even more. And when he came back, he said, "We got to go." We have got to go. They went back for another month, and he was out, moved in about a year after having gone for vacation for 2 weeks. And now they've been there for about 2 years now. And so that's what I mean. People are relocating, especially when they go on vacation. And, sometimes on vacation, you may be driving around the town or whatever, and you start seeing open houses, and you're like, let me check out what the real estate market is like here. And then when you see what the price points are compared to where you are from, sometimes you just fall in love and you're like, wait, I can get so much more for my money. Let me check this out. So let me see. No, they were not playing. And I see Buddha of Destiny Namaste is in the building. Thank you for being here. So good to see you. It's been a while. Yes, having a wonderful evening. Okay, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm definitely going to have some pretty good nuggets, so I hope you have a pen and paper nearby. Okay, yes, I should be getting ready for bed too, because it's been a long day, and I don't know why my lives are taking me so long to come on at this time. But thank you, I appreciate your support. So let me tell you, people come to Charlotte and move. Over 100 people every single day move to Charlotte, North Carolina, because they come here and they recognize the climate. There's a lot to do, whether you're single or have a family. Initially, the cost of living looks like it's amazing. And it's definitely much better than up top than up north. But people, they fall in love with the city. It's a new city. They can feel the opportunities that are here. And I'm telling you, if you have a business of some sort, if you're innovative, creative, if you have great ideas, Charlotte is definitely that place. And so that's why I decided to, again, do this topic or have this topic about things to consider when relocating, because it's more than just falling in love with the place. I feel like when I say that, I'm feeling like I'm saying, when did you fall in love with hip hop? I don't know why that just came to mind, but, things to consider. So I've relocated numerous times. I don't know. I low key feel like when I went to college in Pennsylvania, that was a form of relocation. When I went to visit the school, I had to make sure, well, for me, making sure that I loved the area, I loved the campus, and this is a place I want to be. And that's how I had when my children, went to visit different schools when they were in high school. I would always ask, do you see yourself here? Does this feel like home? Do you feel comfortable? Are you enjoying, the students that you've met so far? And that is very much like relocating, because if you're seriously looking at homes or places to live, if you so happen to see a neighbor out, you may, strike up a conversation. Well, how long have you been here? How do you like the area? Just trying to get a feel and getting a vibe from that person. It's just like going to a new job, relocating and changing jobs, and trying to get a feel. When you go on that interview, not only are you being interviewed, but you should be interviewing the employer as well. And Slasher Chick is saying, I fell in love with Waikiki, but it's too far from my mom. But I'm determined to live there one day. Yes, and it's possible. It is very much possible. I already have my areas in the United States that I want to go. I'm just waiting for certain things to settle down in this particular state. But not in North Carolina, but in the other state, that I absolutely love this destination. And I would love to have a condo there. So, but at any rate, I really wanted to come here to, help you all determine the things that you need to consider. Then after college, going back home was a no-brainer. I worked in Manhattan, but then when I got married, we relocated immediately to LA, then to St. Louis, then to New Orleans, and then to Charlotte. And there were, not so many things that we had to consider when we relocated to California. It was kind of like, it was just he and I, him mostly, and it was just kind of like, okay, we just need to be kind of close to the stadium where he was going to practice and play. And the same thing with St. Louis. We wanted to make sure that we were in close proximity. Since it was the first year that the team was in St. Louis, we also wanted to be close to some of the team mates. We all were kind of like fish out of water, new city. That was the most interesting thing to do, is when you relocate, say if your company relocates to another state, another city, and you're part of the relocation, all of your colleagues, they're all going to if they're all coming with you too, everyone's going to be new. And so it's nice to live around everyone, within a certain square mile radius, because you're all new, and you need each other for that support sometimes. And so that worked out. And then with New Orleans, we didn't know anything about New Orleans, had a realtor taking us around. And I remember we rented a home in New Orleans, and the realtor kept trying to get us to purchase a home. She was like, "Oh, you should purchase a home." Oh, y'all, it's about to storm here. I don't know if y'all can hear it. I'm sitting really close to the window. You might be able to hear it. But the realtor kept saying, "Oh, you should buy this house." The realtors that teams connect you with, they know what your contract is. So she kept showing us homes at that price point of what the contract was, which I think that messes up a lot of athletes. They look at it like, "Oh, I'm making seven figures, I should buy a seven-figure home." No, because if that's the home that you're going to live in for a good portion of your life, you need to make sure that it is going to be something you can sustain, because you have to consider utilities, you have to consider landscape and repairs and just all kinds of things. And so you want to be reasonable with it. Unless you're making seven figures every single year, you shouldn't live as if you have it like that, for sure. Be more modest. But at any rate, she kept trying to get us to purchase. And my take on it was, we don't have family or friends here. And in sports, it's very you have to have your head on a swivel. You never know if you're going to finish out your contract. You never know if you're going to stay and renew your contract. So you don't really want to always put foundation under your feet like that. And then if you move, you want to be able to just pick up and go to the next city or whatever. But if you have a home that you also have to sell and do all this with, that means somebody's going to have to be back and forth to that city and making sure everything is straight. Unless you have relatives in that area, that's very challenging. So we ended up finding a really wonderful home, and that we were able to rent. We did not let her talk us into it. And which, another thing, a place like New Orleans or certain places in Florida that are impacted by hurricanes and such, we could be like, we were in Charlotte when Katrina happened, and if we had our homes there still, we would have been concerned with maybe the renters, the property itself, and that would have been just a whole nother level. We were already concerned because we had friends there. So we were already concerned with how they were doing and what kind of support they would need. So, you have to take a lot of things into consideration. And then, moving to Charlotte, because we knew this was probably going to be our last stop, we didn't necessarily want to live near the teams. We wanted to live in a area that we could really see ourselves growing our family in. And so that was, important. So in turn, I'm just giving you that background to let you know that I have a lot of experience when it comes to relocating and things to consider. So now let's get into some of the things that I think you should consider. And the first is the cost of living. And yes, absolutely. Yeah, at such a young age too, you know. All right. So the cost of living. Now I do have some things I want to put up. All right. So, with the cost of living, you want to research the cost of housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, and other expenses in the new area compared to your current location. And this will help you budget accordingly. Because sometimes what people will do is they may look at the gas prices and say, oh, gas is so cheap here. Oh my goodness, it's so much cheaper than where we live. It's more less expensive to live around here. But then you go to the grocery store and the groceries may be as much or more than where you are from, as well as utilities. If you are moving to a warmer climate, then you possibly will have to use your air condition more. So your electric bill may be higher. Or if you move to a colder climate, then your heating bill might be more. Also, if you move to a warmer climate, 9 times out of 10, I mean, I'm not talking about anyone's hygiene, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to shower more often, use a lot of water to water your grass, especially if you're moving into a single family home. You're going to have an irrigation system or a sprinkler where, because you want to water your grass. Let me tell you, New Orleans, that grass, what? I mean, we could not keep it watered enough. It was, the humidity and the heat was extreme. And let me tell you, we had a landscaper and, they put the flowers out and everything. And the house that we rented didn't have a sprinkler system. And we would be sometimey with the sprinklers. So all of our flowers used to die almost immediately. They never got enough water. And so I went I went out and I bought I bought silk and plastic flowers and put them in the yard like they were growing out of the earth. And no one could tell. People would be like, your flowers are so beautiful. And they just stay, the color is so bright. Now I had to change them out maybe every 2 or 3 months because the sun would fade them down. They literally would fade them. But I was like, daggone this. I want the front of my house to always look nice. So I got silk and plastic flowers and put them out there. It was the funniest thing. But you got to do what you got to do. I mean, it was just getting ridiculous. I was tired of seeing the flowers die and having a landscaper coming out and spending hundreds of dollars for him to redo the flower bed. So I was like, I'll do it. I got this. Yep, the flowers didn't die. Yes, every quarter. Yep. And I would change the colors to match the season. So like in November, I'd put like yellows and orange flowers, some reds. Christmas, I would have the poinsettia flowers and I would put them in the dirt, stick them down in there and, keep it moving. In the spring, I would have, pretty pastel colors. In the summer, I'd have some more pastels, but, just different types of more seasonal flowers. Out there. I'll be on my knees. My neighbors will be like, you planting? Yeah, I'm planting. I am. I sure am. Yes. MIT has a living wage calculator, which one can also use to determine what's a living wage in that area and how do their own finances compare. Yes, and I'm also going to show another site that I use that I think will be helpful for everyone that's tuned in for looking at wages for what you do. So again, cost of living. So you want to look at the groceries, utilities, consider the climate, and also gas prices as well. I mean, I know I said depending on where you are, they could be higher or lower. I know South Carolina is a lot cheaper than North Carolina. There are parts of Virginia that are cheaper as well. It's just depending on where you are and what you're close to. All right. So that's the cost of living. Let's look at the next. And this is the job market. Now, a site that I use, and this is developed by the Department of Labor, is called ONET. And it's O, N like Nancy, E like Edward, T like Tom. And to get to all of it's a whole system that I use when I do career coaching. It's called mynextmove.org, and it is phenomenal. I love it. I've been using it for over 15 years, and a lot of people, again, are very transient. They want to relocate, but they want to see like how much money am I going to make in that area. So with ONET, you can type in your state or your zip code. So I took out my zip code here, but I did have the zip code. That's why it's specific to Charlotte, Concord, Gastonia. It's basically the Charlotte region. And it goes into, let me see, I might need to take the banner off so you can see it. Okay. So it goes into how much the range, according to the United States, according to your region, and in the area that you specified in your region. So as you can see here, and this is for digital forensics analysis. It does have a bright future. It's a occupation that's going to grow in the near future. So many more positions are going to become available. I didn't go deep. This is the only screenshot I took of this page, but you can even check and see what positions are open in that area. It tells you the date they were posted. It gives you the background of the information, and you can also apply right there on it. But you can see what the range is. It even tells you that workers on an average earn about 97. And I picked that particular occupation. That's more like cybersecurity because that's growing. But then it says like 10% earn under or less than 44,000, 10% earn more than 169,000. So you can kind of see, I should have taken a screenshot of what the whole region looks like because it'll show places in North Carolina like Raleigh, Durham, even down to Virginia Beach. I don't know why they go down that far, but even in the mountain areas like Asheville, and even down like on the coastal areas as well. So you can kind of gauge what part of the state you may want to relocate in. But understanding this is really important, and as well as the cost of living. How much is it going to cost you? So if you currently make, you know, about 150K, and the cost of living is less where you're trying to relocate, then your money's going to go, and you could make up to like 169 or more, then your money's going to go a lot further. But if you're going to make less and the cost of living is the same or a little bit more, then that's not the place for you, and you want to definitely do that type of research. All right. And the next is the housing market. And so the housing market is, oh, you know what? I wanted to say one more thing about the job market. So you also want to see the job market trends. And so that's why I really love this ONET or My Next Move, because it'll show you the trends, what's growing. As you can see where it's the sunshine, where it says bright outlook. If an occupation on that site, and the Department of Labor goes all around the country, they do research on all occupations and positions. They even interview people that are doing the work so you can understand what that work entails. They give a very detailed description, summary of all the occupations, but they can let you know, is it going to grow? How is it going to grow? If you are in HR, this is a great site. If you write job descriptions, interview questions, if you revise resumes, this is also a great site to get key skills, core competencies, so you can understand what those positions entail. It also tells you whatever type of technology that occupation needs. But you definitely want to secure a job before moving if possible. And that's again why I like this site, because it gives you all all of the major companies that are posting in for those particular occupations. And again, it shows you when they were posted, what the job entails, and you can apply right on this site. So it's really a great site to navigate through. Whenever I have coaching sessions and I take someone through that site, walk them through it, they are blown away. It is something you want to roll your sleeves up and just really do a deep dive. And I see Believer 72 is in the building. Hello. AI is going to replace a lot of jobs in 5 to 10 years. We're not going to recognize our world, but as AI is going to replace jobs, they're still going to need people that can, in the background, the back office part, work the AI. So, AI, what it's going to do, where it may have taken 4 people, 2 to 4 people to do that one job, they may only need one person. So people try to get into that fear factor of, oh, jobs are going to be taken, but jobs are also going to be created. And that's why right now, today, if it, it should have been yesterday, we all need to upskill and reskill ourselves to be prepared for those new types of jobs or new ways of how we are going to be doing our jobs so we can stay relevant and be attractive for those new opportunities that are going to come up. And your research is saying the cost of living in Philly and Charlotte are similar. It can be, right. Yes, absolutely, slasher chick. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of people are, they think that Charlotte is so inexpensive. Let me tell you, I, ugh, okay. So when we first moved to Charlotte, I was like, oh, we're going to get so much for our money. And we did. But we had to pay more than what we had expected, probably like double what we thought we were going to have to pay. And even at that, I mean, and that was back in the day, and the houses have quadrupled in price. I think Charlotte is trying to slow down in terms of the cost of living in housing, because I know a lot of places like apartment complexes this year alone have not really increased like they have in the past few years since COVID. And the housing market has not slowed down in terms of people buying houses, but in terms of the price increases of the homes. I think there's something happening that's regulating that whole situation. Maybe one day I'll interview my daughter because she's a realtor here in Charlotte and killing the game. But she has a lot of insight on the housing market as well, that she could possibly share. But yeah, the cost of living in Charlotte is not what a lot of people think. In terms of taxes, yes, it's really good. I mean, our 1 bedroom in New Jersey condo, the taxes on that which was more than our 5 bedroom home in Charlotte. And the home is full brick, and so it's definitely a big difference when it comes to taxes for sure. Um, okay, yeah, it's ONET, and I'll put that in ONET online, and I think it's .org. I know it's mynextmove.org, and I'll put that in there too. My next move. And if you ever wanted to, have me walk you through that, I'd be happy to. And then Believer 72, and our Believer, I appreciate you for being here as well. You worked for UPS for 20 years but can't do heavy lifting anymore. I need new job skills. Yes, and that's becoming a thing too. A lot of people are having challenges with their knees, their hips, their shoulders, their necks, their backs. And when they've done things that were a little more laborious, hands on, they are having challenges. And so now they're looking around like, wait a minute, I need something that I can do, but not have to use my body as much. And so, Believer 72, I highly recommend that you check out mynextmove.org. There is an interest assessment on there where you will answer. It's a series of 60 questions. It's a free site, it's developed by the Department of Labor. And once you complete that, it'll show you what your interests are. And if, depending on your level of education, if you have a high school diploma, GED, associate's degree, or certifications, bachelor's, master's or beyond, you would also select that in terms of your job zone, and that site will match you up with careers that you would possibly have an interest in according to your responses to the assessment. And when I tell you, it is amazing because there'll be occupations that you may not have considered. But when you look at the summary of that occupation, you will be like, wait a minute, I would love doing this. I just never knew the name of it. There's thousands of job titles out there, and a lot of people just aren't aware of it. Now, if you need additional training, like a certification or anything like that, they'll also let you know what type of training is available. You can type in your zip code and it'll show you things that are online, or your local community college, or your local 4-year degree college. And check out your community college. They have a lot of great scholarships that companies are providing, that they need people in these positions, like a cybersecurity. And cybersecurity is not a heavy lift. You would not have to lift boxes or anything. You would have to use your brain, but it and you have to use your brain to lift boxes too. Don't get that twisted. But there are a lot of great apprenticeship programs, and when you think of an apprenticeship, don't think it's just for someone that's 18 to 24. Oftentimes that's who they're targeting, but it's open for anyone. I've had apprentices that were 60 years old. So it's for people who want to be and need to be upskilled and reskilled, people who are willing to learn and work. That's what those programs are for. Apprenticeships are the new trade schools. So definitely look into that. And your community college should have information on apprenticeship programs that are out there. And again, the employer will pay for you to not only get the credentials, but they'll train you while you're getting those credentials, and they will pay you while you're getting them. Just make sure that it is a registered program. And typically, if you're going to a community college and they are working with employers, it is a registered apprenticeship program. But there are so many opportunities, and I just, hope that you can reach out to your community college. It's not always about the associate's degree. Sometimes it might be a course, just one class you may need to take, or a certificate program. And you say you might have to consider Atlanta. Listen, Atlanta is no penny pincher either. My daughter has a 2-bedroom and she has a roommate, and they each are paying close to 14 a month for their 2-bedroom. I mean, now the bells and whistles, the amenities are remarkable, but it's no, you know, Sunday walk either. So just, okay, good. Believer 72. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it is. I love it. I love it so much. All right. So, with the housing market, you want to analyze home prices or rental costs in desirable neighborhoods, and considering hiring a local real estate agent to assist your search. So, a lot of times, when you do your search on your by yourself, and people always like, I'm gonna cut the middleman out. I don't want to use a realtor. There's all these sites I can go online, but realtors really have access to a lot of other networks and platforms that the average person um, does not have access to. And within their network, sometimes it might be a new home that's getting ready to come onto the market. And if you are a client looking for that particular type of home because you have that realtor working on your behalf, they might say, oh, you know what, I have a buyer for this house already, and that kind of speeds up the process and puts you in better position. You're saying let me stay in Philly? No, but I'm just saying explore. And where my daughter lives, I mean, look, there's good and bad places everywhere you go. But because she was in college, we wanted to make sure she was in a really good spot. So, that's the thing. But I'm sure that there are other places, and your dollar will go a lot further too in Atlanta. Yes. Even as a renter, absolutely. And my daughter works with a lot of people that are relocating who want to get the feel of the lay of the land first before they, commit to buying something. And so she's able to help them find an apartment or a short-term home, to get their feet on the ground, which is really really important. Hi, Jessica Hicks. Welcome in. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well on this weekend where right now it is about to rain. But okay, so for the housing, you want to consider a local real estate agent. Also, for yourself, know who you are and what you need in a community. I know for us, and it's for me, it's a lifestyle. That's what I go for, like the vibe of the area. And so I'm not one to I don't want to have to, or not have to, but I don't want to feel compelled to have to wear a fur coat to the grocery store if I don't want to. Like if it's not like I'm not looking for the paparazzi. Let's put it that way. I like kick back, laid back. If I want to put some flip flops on, some Crocs or Uggs or whatever, and just get it and go. Some leggings, boom. I don't want to have to always make sure everything is in place before I step out to go to the local corner store or whatever grocery store. And there are places in Charlotte that are like that. You kind of have to be polished up, to and you don't have to, but you just don't. It's just not a comfortable feeling if you're not. And so we always kind of looked and found really nice places that everyone was just kind of like almost like a resort feel, where it's just you just laid back, kicking it and minding your business, just trying to do what you need to do and keep it moving. But then there are places too where it might be extremely busy. Do you want to be on the outskirts of the city, in one of the suburbs? There's a lot of outskirt towns like Matthews, Gastonia, Concord, Huntersville that are really close in proximity to Charlotte. I want to say in Charlotte, everything is about, even on the outskirts, is about 20 to 30 minutes to uptown, to the inner city part, um, which is really good. That means everything is pretty much accessible. And I like that better than Atlanta. Now, I love Atlanta slasher chick. I know you just said Atlanta, maybe. I love Atlanta. It's just that you could live in a place and it's called Atlanta, or people call it Atlanta, whatever, and you were an hour out. Like when we went out after dinner for my daughter's graduation and we were in Buckhead. I love Buckhead. Love it. Love Buckhead. And I remember asking my friends, I said, and I also love Conyers in Atlanta. Well, it's outside of Atlanta. So that's really far on the outskirts. So it's really far on the outskirts. But I asked my friends, and they live in the Atlanta area, and I said, "How far are y'all from where the restaurant is?" And they were like, "Oh, we're an hour away." What? I couldn't do it. An hour? That's too much. I want to be 30 minutes away from everything that I need. If I have to drive an hour, that means I might have to get a room or something. That just seems too far. That's 2 hours. That's 2 hours there and back. I love walking distance to main streets with eateries, restaurants, and farmers markets. And there's a lot of great neighborhoods in Charlotte like that. Actually, even in my neighborhood, I mean, before I had found out that I have a challenge with my heart, I used to be able to walk. Outside of like our community and across the street is a really good little like shopping little area. They have like a farmer's market on the weekends, ice cream parlor, restaurants. They even have a cigar lounge there. It's like really cool. Um, Kind of unexpected, to be so close. It's like, wow, this is very convenient. But I love that. I love to be in walking distance to things. And we have a lot of good little towns on the outskirts. And even, if you live in the city part, they have the train, but we'll go into transportation a little bit later. But yeah, um, that's something to consider. And when you're working with a realtor, you can let them know that's part of your needs. Okay, the next is taxes. So you also want to consider taxes in your cost of living, because I know in New Jersey, and I'm pretty sure this is the thing. We didn't have to pay taxes every year on our vehicles, or maybe we did, and I just didn't. I don't know. No, but I don't think we had taxes on our vehicles like we do here. in the Carolinas. Definitely not as much. If we did, it wasn't as much as the taxes are here. So you want to consider that, those types of things, taxes on your home. So taxes here are a lot cheaper than taxes up north in the, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. That's why a lot of people from those areas are moving down here. I mean, I know in my town in Teaneck, I lived in northern New Jersey growing up, and taxes on homes range from about 10,000 to 25,000 a year on top of your mortgage and insurance. So, you come down here, and for a home that's even bigger, you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 a year on taxes, and that's a significant difference. So you want to know what taxes are like, what taxes on your vehicle, on your tags are going to be, taxes on items, some places just have the sales tax and, something else. Whereas here, there's areas that might be county tax included, or, what other taxes are included in the cost of things, of your groceries, of when you go out to eat, of when you purchase your gas. You see the price, but what's the real price going to be? So understanding that is very, very helpful too. All right. And you want to be aware of differences in income tax, property tax, and sales tax rates that can impact your finances. So, income tax, too, is really important to understand. Again, if you need to understand, especially if you work in remote and your company is, and I know someone, because I had talked about that in another one of the lives, and someone was saying that they use oh, wait, who was it? Maybe it wasn't a live. Oh, no. I know someone that's getting ready to move to a coastal area in another state. And I said, you got to check out the taxes, because she's still going to be working in the state she currently lives in, but she's moving to a different state. And she said, "Oh, I have an address here that I'm using, that I use now, and I'm going to continue to use. So I'm working remote in that other state, but I don't have to worry about, the differences in the income tax." I know for my husband, when he played and this is any athlete, when they play in different states, however many games they play, like, so back in the day it was 16 games, eight of them would be in different states. We had to do a W-2 for each state. So some states was a little bit less, some were a little bit more. So understanding what that looks like for you, especially if you're working remote, and if your job allows you to work wherever you want to be, how does that look? Or if you are self-employed, how are the taxes going to look, because you're going to be earning money in a different state, and so you would work with your accountant regarding that, and that's important. Definitely work with your accountant on that. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you. All right. So the next after taxes is climate and environment. So you want to assess if you can adapt to the new climate, weather patterns, and any potential natural disaster risks in that region. Y'all, that right there is so real. Let me tell you, when I when we lived in New Orleans, I had my son, and I was pregnant. He was born the end of September. So I was pregnant in New Orleans in the summer, big and pregnant in the summer. And ooh, that right there it was unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. But then the week before my son was born, I remember my mother-in-law was with us. She was with us our last trimester. And oh, you live near Baton Rouge? Wow. Okay, so we lived in well, right outside of New Orleans in Kenner. So not too far from Baton Rouge. And so we were the week before my son was born, there was this rain. It was raining really hard. And I remember they were like, don't go out in the rain. It's raining too hard. Oh no, they called it a tropical storm. And I was like, a tropical storm? It's just raining. They so over dramatic down here, always calling things something that is not. Where I'm from, this is called rain. Get over it. And so my mother-in-law and I were going to deliver some t-shirts because we had a nonprofit and we would sponsor several youth to come to home games, and so we always gave them t-shirts and tickets, and so we were going to deliver them. This was on a Friday, I remember, because then we had to go pick up my father-in-law from the airport. And what, it was not rain. It was torrential. We couldn't even go down some of the streets in New Orleans because the water was literally was almost up to our door. I don't even know how my car survived. And so that's when I was like, wait, where are we? And then, the week later, I had my son a week early, and so I went into labor, and I had him on a Friday morning. And I remember my husband had a game in Indianapolis that weekend. So Saturday, I had him Friday. My mother-in-law was with me in the hospital. He was too until Friday afternoon. And then Saturday, they had to fly out. And he told my mother-in-law, like, take our dog, because we had a trial baby dog, a boxer, Dino. And he said, take him to the vet so that he can go and get his shots and fly to New Jersey to my parents. Like, we got 2 tickets, one for him, and it was like a faux ticket for my mother-in-law, because she was just gonna, back then you could do this. This was in 98. So she was just going to, take him to the airport, put him on the plane, and then my parents were gonna meet him off the plane and get him like that. But she was going to come back to the hospital to stay with me. So while she was doing all of that, I was at the hospital and I was calling my friends. And it wasn't raining anymore or anything. The sun was kind of out. And I was telling my friends, like the other wives and stuff, I was like, I'm at the hospital. I had the baby a week early. Do y'all want to come to the hospital to see me? And they were like, girl, no, we're going to Houston. We're going to Atlanta. And I was like, why? Because I'm thinking the game's in Indianapolis. Why are you going there? That doesn't make sense. And they said, because there's a big storm coming. And I was like, what? And so I'm just kind of like, doo-doo-doo. And I'm looking at the TV and I'm thinking like, wow, something's really getting ready to happen. And I'm like, but at least I'm safe. I'm in the hospital. I should be cool. I just had my baby, whatever, literally the day before. And so I want to say it was about 6 o'clock in the evening, and my pediatrician, and because I had already had her and everything, and my GYN came to see me, and they were like, how are you doing? And I said, I'm doing good, and I didn't have to take any medicine, nothing. I was good, like even for the labor, everything. I was good to go. No pain medicine after, nothing. And so they said, oh, okay, well, we're going to discharge you. And where are you going to go? What you mean? And so long story short, I had to be discharged, and my mother-in-law and I and our dog, because she wasn't able to get him to the airport on time, it was just so much traffic, we all went to the Superdome. And this is before Katrina, though. And so we were in one of the suites in Katrina from that Sunday. We actually left Sunday morning because we didn't get back to the house until about 9, 10 o'clock that night. And I called the team chaplain because I didn't know who else to call. My neighbors came over, a couple of them that were staying. Well, one was going to Beaufort, and Believer 72, you may know Beaufort, Louisiana, to his family. It was him and his wife and kids, and they invited us to go. But I was like, what? I don't. And then my neighbor next door was like, oh, you could stay in our house. They had a 2-story house. We had a ranch, and we were right, like our neighbors across the street, their backyard, beyond their backyard, you go up, and there was a walking trail. When I say up, I mean literally it was a hill. And then there was the wall for Lake Pontchartrain, which was over. And I say up because Lake Pontchartrain was up over our neighborhood. Like, it was higher than our neighborhood. But so our neighborhood, they really recommended that you evacuate. And my neighbor was like, you could stay at our house, you could stay upstairs. And I said, well, where are you going? They said, oh, we're not going to be there. What? I have a brand new baby. Why would I be in a house and you're not even going to be there? And then my other neighbor, she had just built her house, and she said, oh, I'm not leaving my house. I'm not doing it. So, and then the closest friend or relative we had was in Atlanta, my best friend that was also college roommates with. She was my maid of honor in my wedding. And no one really knew I had the baby because he was a week early. But I told her, I said, we might have to come to Atlanta because you're the closest one. And Atlanta on a good day was a 7-hour drive, so I know it would have probably have taken us 15 hours to get there. But I did call the team chaplain, and he said, I'm taking some families to the Superdome, some wives and kids. If you can be ready, I think it might have been about 9 o'clock. He said, if you could be ready by 10, then I will swing by and pick you up. I'm talking about at night, PM, the day after I had a baby. And I was like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I'm so tired. I don't even know what to do. I have to put stuff up in my house, da da da. And he said, okay, I'm coming back in the morning at 6 a.m. And that's another thing. We had to find a place that we could also take our dog because we didn't want to leave him. That was our baby. He had to be accommodated for too, and he could come with us to the Superdome. So um he said we're gonna come back around 6:30. Is that And so I was like, yeah, that's fine. So we got everything together, went to the Superdome. I got situated in the suite. My mother-in-law took our dog down to he actually was in Mike Dicka's locker room. Mike Dicka was the head coach at that time. They had other animals like pets, cats, dogs, whatever, and they had them all in different locker rooms or situations. They kept our dog separate from everyone because he was a boxer. And if y'all know anything about a boxer, boxers are the most docile, sweetest dogs you could ever have, but they look crazy. They look mean. So no one really wanted their dogs around Dino like that. So he jacked up the locker room too. Oh my goodness. So that was Sunday morning, and we stayed there until Tuesday. So we had a blow up mattress. It was an event. But all I'm saying is when it comes to climate and understanding, look, I digress. That was such a sidebar. When we talk about climate and environment, you have to take all of that into consideration when you move to certain places. And all I kept saying during the whole thing was, this doesn't happen where I'm from. This right here does not happen where I'm from. So, that's the thing. So you want to consider climate. All right. And the next thing is healthcare. So healthcare is so important when you are considering relocating. You want to make sure, whatever stage you are in your life, that you can be accommodated within a certain amount of miles, time to get there. So for us, especially when we were first married, and when we were starting a family, wherever we moved, I kept my thing was, where's the closest hospital? Because I was like, listen, if I go into labor, I need to be able to almost walk to the hospital if I need to. So we always made sure that our neighborhoods were close, relatively close to some type of medical facility, whether it's one that my doctor was affiliated with or not. It didn't matter because I didn't even have doctors at first when I got there. So I didn't care. I was just like, I just want to be able to see a hospital shortly after leaving the neighborhood. That was just important to me. And when you get older, when you get up in age, you want to also make sure that you have hospitals or medical facilities near you. So a lot of elderly people, more seasoned individuals after retirement and such, the things that they needed when they worked may not be the same. Their taxes may be a lot, and they're not really doing anything with those services. Like if they're paying a lot for taxes and that means the schools are really good, they don't have anyone going to school. So why do I need to still be here paying this money? So I'm going to relocate somewhere else where taxes are a little bit less and my money will go much further. Well, when you do that, you need to make sure that you have adequate doctors and facilities, and especially specialty facilities, where doctors that specialize in different things, be it specialize in neurology, in cardiology, different things that may occur or you may end up having challenges with as you mature and age. All of that is so important. Driving long distance, there's nothing like needing that emergency care and you have to drive 60 miles, 45 miles. There's not even 30 miles, that's too far when you have an emergency. So you definitely want to make sure that that's near. And also look at the ratings of the doctors in that area. What type of specialties do they have? What are some of their reviews? And doing all of this is important when you are researching and things to consider when relocating. All right. And also the cost, the insurance coverage, and availability of medical facilities. So insurance, some people when they retire, if they've worked for one company for many years, they may have gotten grandfathered into the health plan that they have. But not every state, believe it or not, takes those types of healthcare plans. They may take them, but you may have to pay a little bit more, or the things that are covered may not be covered in that area. Whatever the case may be, that's something you need to call your provider and ask. I'm getting ready to move to this city, this state. How will this transfer? Will this transfer okay? And I also recommend, especially with healthcare, that if you're going to pivot and make that move, try and do it before you get too involved with a doctor in your current area, because some doctors don't like to work over. It's almost like a hairdresser or nails technician. If you break a nail and you go to someone else to fix it, they're looking at all your nails like, no, I need to fix all your nails. Or a hairstylist, going to a different stylist because something messed up on your hair, and now you're asking that hairstylist to fix it. They're like, no, I got to do this from scratch. I got to do the whole thing over. And that's how some doctors are. They're like, where'd you get this from? Or what was the diagnosis? Oh, we need to do all those tests over. And if they need to do all those tests over, you need to make sure your insurance will cover it. Because if you've gotten those tests done within that year and that doctor's not really honoring it, or um, they are looking at it and their diagnosis is different, so that's why they want to have another look, you need to make sure that it'll be covered. So that's something else to consider. All right. And the next is education. So this is really important, especially if you are a young family and are considering relocating. If you have children, you want to evaluate the quality of schools and educational opportunities in that area. There are some areas where the education system is consistent. No matter where you are, what school within that county, they have the same supplies, same resources, same high level of education. But then there are some areas where it really just depends on what part of town you live in. And that is not equality. And there's so many school systems across the country that aren't equal. But if you have children who are in K through 12, you want to definitely make sure that you understand what area the homes you're looking at are zoned in and what those schools are like. I know, we moved to Virginia for 3 years when I was my mother's primary caregiver. And when we came back to Charlotte, everything flipped upside down. My son was getting ready to start high school. One of my daughters was in middle school, and my youngest was in her last year of elementary school. And when I tell you, trying to find, we wanted to make sure to match the house with the school. When I tell you, looking for schools consistent across all three, elementary, middle, and high school, was so challenging. It was like, it was harder to look for schools at that age level than it was to look for colleges. That's how that's how challenging it was. That's how different school systems were. We actually ended up moving to a whole nother part outside of Charlotte that had a very consistent elementary, middle, and high school, that fed into each other, because we needed it to be relatively simple, since all three were going to be in different locations. And, sometimes you have to do that, and just, the house may or may not, you can look out. Absolutely. We did, where your house is just as nice and good as the schools, but sometimes you may have to downsize, or reaccommodate your expectations, or change your expectations not reaccommodate, but change your expectations for the home, to make sure that the education piece is straight, because you don't want them to be in a place where education is not the primary goal, but behavior management is, then your child, something may trigger in them. And not saying that they might be a behavior challenge, but school may not be as important to them anymore after that. you know um, Definitely look into that. Don't take it for granted if you're moving to a big, beautiful, innovative, new looking city and, oh, it's everybody's moving here. No. All schools are not the same, and that's very unfortunate, very unfortunate. All right, the next is culture and lifestyle. So you want to consider if the culture, recreational activities, dining scene, and overall lifestyle align with your preferences. And I know that's one challenge that people that move to Charlotte have. You know, they're used to being in these cities like a New York or an LA, and you could basically go out at any time and have a good time. I mean, COVID definitely slowed that down, but things have picked up for sure. Whereas in Charlotte, especially restaurants, a lot of them close on the weekends, even around 11 o'clock, and sometimes that's when the party's getting started. So, for instance, when was it? About a year and a half ago or so, I went to the New Edition guy. Who else was there? Keith Sweat and Tank concert. Y'all, that concert was everything, everything. And so, oh, okay, no problem. No problem. I understand. And so we went to the concert. One of my line sisters from Pittsburgh was actually in town too, and she came to the concert and we met. And I was like, oh, afterwards we can just go to dinner, go and get something to eat. So there's this place called Crave, and I love it. It's a dessert bar and it's also a hookah lounge. I don't do the hookah, and I'm probably saying that wrong. If one of my kids was in here, they would be like, what? But you know what I'm saying, the hookah lounge. But they have amazing desserts. They even have really good appetizers type of things. They even have lamb chops. It's so delicious. The food is really good. So I said, oh, we can go to Crave. But when you're leaving a concert, it's a process. So you have to navigate through the crowd, then the traffic. And by the time we got to the Crave restaurant, it was like 5 or 10 minutes to 12 p.m. I mean, a.m. I'm sorry. And they had just stopped seating people at 11:30. They were like, no, we can't do it. We're closing. We close at 12 and we took our last guest at 11:30. What? And then from there we couldn't find anything. The one other place, Midnight Diner, they had a long line and we just didn't feel like going to a Waffle House. That just was not the vibe we were feeling. So we just, basically went our separate ways. And I said, we'll meet up tomorrow and I'll take you to brunch. And that's the best we could do. Just go to sleep and dream about brunch tomorrow. And that was a Friday night. And you would think, especially when they know that there's an event going on, that the restaurants would be more accommodating, but they're not. And because the service industry is struggling with finding good employees, it's challenging to find them to go over and beyond. I mean, they're like, listen, you lucky we here right now. So we can't do it. And so if you're looking for some place that, the vibe and the flow is going to continue, party don't stop till you come through, Charlotte might not be the place. Now, there are some other areas, we just didn't really feel like driving to them, that may have more accommodations. But in real life, I don't even think those areas do either. I want to say things really shut down like I don't know, I don't go to the club, so let me stop. But but I do know that, there are some times when I do go out and, you want to just maybe get a bite to eat a little bit, or a nightcap type of thing. And it's really hard to find a good solid place that you can do that here in Charlotte. But I also, again, I think that's because of the service industry. All right. And the next is transportation. So, transportation and understanding the public transit system and commuting options, you want to factor in costs like vehicle registration if needed. And again, that's that vehicle registration as well as taxes on your vehicle. But The transportation in Charlotte is really interesting. We do have the light rail system, which is really nice, really, really nice train system, but it really only goes up and down, left and right. Like it, if you needed to go to the, to turn right there, like if you could just turn right there and go straight, you'll put me that much closer to where I need to be. It's not going to do that. It just goes up and down. So I love taking the train, but when I take the train, I literally have to drive to the train station and then get on the train. And then when I get off the train, I have to walk the rest of the way to where I'm going. But by then I'm in the city kind of vibe and I don't mind that. But it's not like a metropolitan area like a Philly or a New York or a Chicago or even a LA where, you take the train, you right there. Oh, I'm right there. Now the train is simpler, especially if it's like a lot of traffic, because we do have a lot of traffic, but it's not simpler in terms of when you get off. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're used to taking public transportation. The bus system, I hear, is even worse. Now, they do have commuter buses where if you live on the outskirts, you can park and ride and do it like that. But I've heard people that, rely on the bus. It's something about it's taking 2 hours. No matter where you're trying to go, it takes about 2 hours because the bus picks everybody up and then they go back to the bus station or something like that. Hold on. I'm sorry, I had to get some water. But it's something like, it takes 2 hours. So you have to leave at about, if you have to be someplace at 8 in the morning, you have to be on the bus by 5 a.m. or something to that extent. I know they're trying to, make adjustments and accommodations because they know a lot more people are living on the outskirts because it's much more affordable and convenient in terms of living. But in regards to the commute, not so much. But then they do have the trolley train, which is an electric train that just it goes up and down as well, but it goes a little bit further. It goes in a different direction than the regular train. And the cool thing about that, now I'm just talking about Charlotte for this. The cool thing about that train is free and it takes you right where you need to be. So it's pretty cool. But not exactly where it takes me where I need to be whenever I ride, let's put it that way. But wherever you're moving, keep all of those types of things into consideration. Do they have do you have to pay for parking everywhere you go? I know in New York, if you're in the, like in the city part of New York and you're driving, even if you go to like the mall or anything like that, you have to pay to park. You have all these tolls. If you're in New York and you want to go to Jersey to go to the mall or whatever, you paying about $20 to go over the George Washington Bridge. So, what does that look like for your commute and for your life? And so Believer is saying, picture this. We have a hurricane evacuation down here, 200,000 people bumper to bumper on the interstate in right. Oh my goodness. Yes, the US government, they really need to rethink a lot of that. Oh my goodness. So they do have now, Believer 72, they do have a lot of money that is starting to pour into the different major cities regarding EV, which is the electric vehicle. So, like the charging stations, how not only do we have to have the charging stations, but we have to have the people that can um, put them in and service them. So there's a lot of new training programs. I'm actually on a committee for one here. There are lots of grant money that the government, federal government, has given to many states. Charlotte has been considered, like, I forget like what they call us, but they're considering us a place where this money will have a lot of impact. So you definitely want to maybe look into that where you are too, because I know with a lot of people wanting Teslas, my daughter wants a Tesla so bad, and I'm like, if you get a Tesla, you got to change your whole electric system or your electric wiring in your home. And how much is that going to be? And what electrician are you going to get to do that? Because how many of them know how to do that? And how much do they charge? Because that's a whole nother investment. So, whew, that's a good point. Because they will run out. And he's given us a picture of this slasher chick. Yeah, right. But we coming into hurricane season, that's for sure. And it could be a thing. That's why if I was to get an electric vehicle, I'd want a hybrid one that can be electric or run on gas. I know there's a few of them out there that I think are pretty cool, but 100% electric, I wouldn't do it. They have this electric Cadillac that is so beautiful. It looks amazing. And I asked, how much do how far can it go without having to charge it? And I think they said like 300 miles. That's like 2 days. That's nothing. And you have to charge those things. Yeah. Yes. Tornadoes have been everywhere. There was a tornado not too far from Charlotte a few weeks ago in Rock Hill, South Carolina, that did some damage. With this weather being so unpredictable, so windy, so rainy here lately, I'm just wondering what else is it stirring up. But we have to take all of that into consideration. That's a really good point, Believer 72, because well, they say that those cars will let you know where the nearest charging station is from wherever you are. But if you're stuck in that type of traffic, like you're saying, 200,000 plus people, bumper to bumper, doesn't matter. It's going to tell you the same place over and over again, but you wouldn't have moved. And I'm just wondering what the impact of that would be. All right. The next one is um oh, that was the last one. So this is it. So again, by thoroughly researching these key aspects, you can make an informed decision about relocating and better prepare for the transition to your new state. And it truly is a transition. So you want to be mindful of, how that is going to impact your move, your life, your business, your career, all of those things. It's more than just saying, oh, I want to move here and picking up and moving. You have to take all of the things that we shared today into consideration. So, again, those things include your cost of living, the job market, housing market, taxes, climate and environment, healthcare, education, culture and lifestyle, and transportation. I hope you all were able to get a nugget or two or three from today's session here on Real Talk with Coach Sherri. And if you did, when this video is uploaded, if you don't mind going into the comment section and let me know what was the one thing or two things that you are taking away, even if it was an aha moment thing, something that you already knew, but you're like, oh man, I almost forgot that. Yeah, I need to consider that if I'm thinking about relocating to Maryland or to Texas or to Charlotte. All right, everyone, it's been my pleasure speaking with you tonight. This is what I do, and it's definitely been my pleasure sharing it with you. I am Coach Sherri.